Have I just been lying to you about GeForce Now and my experience with it? Am I just a corporate sellout for NVIDIA? After we go through these 5 points, you're going to have your answer. So let's get into it. All right, hey guys, what's going on? It's Ryan here. Welcome back to another video, and we're talking some more about GeForce Now. Okay, I want to take some time to answer some of the questions that poured in about GeForce Now and some of the points that I made in another video. So let's get to 5 important points about GeForce Now that you need to know. One of them is massive, so be sure to stick around and check out the last point. It's very important. The first one that has come up and a lot of people were talking about, I got some messages saying, Ryan, your entire video was just one big ad for GeForce Now. I understand that I come across as passionate for the service, but unfortunately, I am not being paid to say any of this. NVIDIA, if you want to talk, call me. I've been using GeForce Now for over a year now, and it has been a stellar experience. I've had hiccups that are far and few between. I am an end user just like anybody else. I'm just extremely passionate about the type of gaming that this service has been able to provide me for the last year, and how it has been just life-changing for my access to different games that I've wanted to play for such a long time, and that this is allowing me to do that. That's where a lot of this passion comes from. That's why I'm even making so many videos about it. I just feel like I have this nugget of information that I just want to share with people. And so that's why it comes across like an ad probably. But again, NVIDIA, feel free to give me a call anytime. The second point, a lot of you wanted to know after the last video, Ryan, what is a strong enough internet connection for GeForce Now, and what is that threshold that's going to make a difference? So I want to be more clear about that than I was in my other video. A strong internet connection for GeForce Now is going to be something that's at least 25 megabytes per second down and up, I would say. I think that's really important to note. I know that this is not a speed that's like totally accessible anywhere in the world, but I do think it is one of the more common speed packages, especially in most different countries. I think if you are near a well-populated area, you're gonna have pretty easy access to that speed. I think if you're in some of the more rural areas, you're gonna get something that may be around half of that, like 12 megabits per second or something like that. That's still fully serviceable for this. You just may encounter more hiccups than people that have the higher speeds, obviously, but I think that if you're at 25 or above, you're gonna have an extremely consistent experience. Another bonus thing to this is that if you are near a server location, that is gonna make a major difference for your experience. So someone that's near a major NVIDIA server location is just gonna have low latency consistently and is gonna have a better connection experience than anybody, no matter what their connection speed is. I personally will admit my bias in the fact that I have 1 gigabyte up and down, so it's pretty hard for me to, you know, test what a lower end experience looks like. I wish I had access to do that, but from the reports that I see online and people that I see in the forums and things like that, somewhere around 25 seems like it is a consistently good experience for people. So keep that in mind if you are exploring this as an option. You're going to want to know what kind of service speeds you have in your area and make sure that it's something that matches up to this experience, because if you don't have a good enough internet service, that's something that needs to be addressed before you get into any kind of cloud gaming service. All right, so let's talk about the major point. I may have lied to you. In my last video, I made it seem like you can have access to your entire library of games. I need to correct this a little bit. That's not entirely true. I got too excited. This service just makes me elated that I have access to so many games. And because of that, I think I went a little overboard with telling you how many games you have access to. It's not entirely wrong, but let's make sure we put a correct label on what's actually going on here. While it's not your entire library, it's still a constantly growing library of over 2,000 games. When you pull up GeForce Now, there's over 2,000 games that you can select from. And that's not it. New games and features are released every single Thursday consistently, and there is always a golden nugget in there somewhere that makes Thursday something to look forward to if you're on the GeForce Now platform. So let's get specific here. The way it works is that there are certain games that GeForce either reaches out about, or the publishers themselves reach out to GeForce about being on the platform. Those games then get access to the GeForce platform as long as they're approved by both the publisher and GeForce. They at some point get slotted into the timeline and put on the GeForce Now service. So there are some games that come out that aren't on the GeForce Now experience. There are some games that are old that still aren't on there that people are asking for. I've noticed that there is consistently more and more. The other end of this spectrum is GeForce Now also has day one releases that are constantly coming out. A really recent example was Black Myth Wukong that came out day one on GeForce Now. Starfield was a really good example. Starfield was a day one release. Whether or not you feel great about the game, the fact that a AAA title was available day one on GeForce Now, I think is a really good example of something positive for the future to come. There's also things like World of Warcraft that has been released on GeForce Now, obviously been out for a long time, but it got brought to the GeForce platform. So all ends of the spectrum are happening here. It's my guess that if there's a game that you enjoy, it will probably be on the GeForce Now experience if it's not already there at some point in the near future. There's also major publishers that are connected to GeForce Now, so they have direct integration with stuff like Microsoft, Xbox, Ubisoft, Epic Games. Those things directly connect to GeForce Now. So there's major publishers that are attached to this. That's worth noting. And even things like Xbox Game Pass have access. So that's just a large library of games that's attached to this that they're going to want to consistently get more and more things plugged in for you to play. So did I lie in the first video? I think it was just incorrect about the numbers, but honestly, you're going to have access to most of the games that you want to play. I'd say upwards of 80% of the games that you're interested in, you're probably going to have access to or have access within the next 6 to 12 months. All right, let's move on to point number 4. I mentioned in my video that creating an app is easy to play these games. Let me clarify that. I'm well aware that creating an app is not easy. It's a poor use of words for sure. Apple devices have the ability to create a shortcut on your homepage that can link to any website. This allows GeForce to appear and operate in your iOS device as simple and easy as any other app. It's not in the App Store though. So let me be clear about that. It probably won't be since Apple is not interested in usually having competing services, especially when it comes to the gaming ecosystem. They don't like to have conflicts of interest. They don't like to have other marketplaces within their iOS experience. So I don't foresee this as something that comes to the App Store. I would be surprised if it does, but you still have the option to create a shortcut on your homepage that links directly to the GeForce Now website. So all you have to do is just like any other app, you just tap it and the experience opens and you log in and everything like that. It's no different than an app really. It's just that you have to set it up instead of being able to download it right off the App Store. That's what I was trying to say in that. So you're not sitting there coding, building an app. I mean, let's get real. That's not what's happening here. All right, a bonus thing that I want to talk about as well before we get to the last point, which is very important. GeForce Now is bringing people to more games than they had access to before. I feel like that's a really important thing to note here. So more gamers are playing more games, and that is a benefit for us as gamers, but also for publishers. I think this is something worth noting. When I've been reading the forums, something that I found extremely interesting is that people, even a year ago, have been talking about how they probably would not have picked up several games if it were not for GeForce Now. Going as far to say as people that have been pirating games their entire gaming career are now paying for over 30 games at a time just because there's access on GeForce Now, and it's that worth it. I think this is a really interesting point for not only gamers to take note of, since we have more people playing these games that we have access to play with now, but really for publishers who are teetering on whether or not they should be getting on this service. You have people showing up, paying more money, and all because of this cloud gaming service that gives them access anywhere with any device. I think that's a really important bonus point that's worth noting here. The final point that is so important that got brought up and so many people want to talk about, Ryan, why should I get this if my PC is already a beast? If I already have a badass machine that can handle anything and is running a 4090 or all these other crazy devices, why should I be considering GeForce Now? It's extremely simple, and let me break it down for you right now. You can't take your PC with you. You can't shove it in the overhead bin of a plane. You can't set it up in grandma's living room for a weekend trip, okay? And you can't game in the back of your Tesla while it's on autopilot. You're gonna run out of battery so fast if you're running that 4090, okay? GeForce lets you have max quality games on the go no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. You pull it up on your phone, you pull it up on your Google Chromebook, you pull it up on your smart TV. If it has access to the internet and a browser, you can be playing these games from anywhere on any device on max settings with a 4090.
Fucking God, what is going on here?
That's absurd. I mean, Let's just be clear about that. There's no place, as long as you have an internet connection, that you cannot be having access to these high-end games. And I think that is so crucially important. So even if you have that giant PC that runs games amazing from your desk that you're always playing on all the time, this gives you access to that same experience outside of the desk. And I think that's what's key. You don't have access to this crazy setup all the time. These massive setups have to stay where they are unless you're running one of the laptops, but then you're dealing with heat and portability issues and all these different things. GeForce Now allows you to have access to high-level games at high quality on high-quality machines anywhere, anytime. That's the biggest difference. So even if you have an amazing PC, there is still a place for you in this environment, and it's still worth considering. That's all the points I wanted to address. If there's anything else you feel like I didn't address, please make sure that you comment down below. If you want to check out some other videos, we've already talked about why GeForce Now has been a life-changing experience for me and my crappy PC. If you want to understand more about the ecosystem, definitely check out some more videos that we have on the page. But for now, I will see you guys later, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.